Heavy metal has always thrived in the margins, born from rebellion, sharpened by distortion, and sustained by a global legion of fans who worship riffs louder than reason. Yet for every Metallica or Maiden, there's a masterpiece buried in obscurity. Albums that shred with brilliance but never broke through the noise. This is a tribute to those unsung records, undeniable in their power, overlooked by the masses. Whether lost to bad timing, label neglect, or simply too weird for mainstream metalheads, these albums deserve resurrection. We'll dive into the forgotten corners of thrash, doom, black, and avant-garde metal to spotlight the records that should have been legends, but instead became cult whispers. This is Overlooked and Undeniable. In the mid-1980s, as heavy metal fractured into faster, louder, and more uncompromising forms, a young band from the UK took its place on the front line. Their album, Onslaught, The Force, emerged at a time when the boundaries of thrash were still being drawn, capturing a raw intensity that reflected both the era's musical upheaval and the band's own rapid evolution. For many listeners, including myself, the album became more than a historical artifact. It became a defining statement of what early thrash could achieve. In this analysis, we'll explore how The Force was shaped by its cultural moment, how its sound was engineered to strike with precision, and why, decades later, it remains a reference point for the genre's development. This is the story of an album forged in transition and remembered for its impact. By 1986, the foundations of thrash metal were shaking. Across the United States, the Bay Area movement was accelerating, and in Europe, a more aggressive, darker variant of the genre was beginning to surface. Yet in the UK, where punk had left a crater only a few years earlier, a hybrid sound was forming, one that blended the speed of hardcore with the weight of traditional heavy metal. It was into this shifting terrain that Onslaught stepped. Emerging from the punk underground of Bristol, the band carried forward the confrontational spirit of their origins, but channeled it through a tighter, more disciplined sonic approach. While the world around them moved fast, Onslaught moved with precision. Inside dim rehearsal rooms and makeshift studios, the band began sculpting the tracks that would define The Force. The transition from their earlier material was unmistakable. Where once there was chaos, now there was structure. Where there had been raw distortion, now there was calculated impact. Producers and engineers who worked with the band recall the sessions not as chaotic, but as intensely focused. Each riff was sharpened, each drum sequence tightened, each vocal phrase pushed toward a sound that carried the urgency of their roots while embracing a more expansive metallic identity. The result was an album that stood at the crossroads of eras, one foot in the aggression of punk, the other pushing boldly into the emerging thrash frontier. Let There Be Death is the moment where Onslaught pushes their developing sound to its absolute limit. From its opening seconds, the song establishes itself not just as a centerpiece of the album, but as one of the defining compositions of early British thrash. The track's power lies in its precision. The riffs arrive like artillery fire, tight, deliberate, and relentless. Each section builds upon the last, shifting from controlled aggression to full-throttle assault with a sense of purpose rarely matched in the era. The guitars carve clean lines through the mix, demonstrating a band fully aware of their rising technical abilities and unafraid to showcase them. But it is the structure of the song that elevates it. Let There Be Death doesn't merely race forward, it unfolds, it grows, it commands. The pacing is cinematic, almost ritualistic, as if the band is guiding the listener through stages of intensity, each one heavier and more ferocious than the last. The chorus, one of the most memorable in Onslaught's catalogue, arrives like a proclamation carved into stone. It embodies the album's central themes: force, confrontation, and the stark power of sound used as a weapon. It is not simply a chant, but a statement of identity. In retrospect, the song stands as a blueprint for the band's future and a model for what British thrash could achieve at its most ambitious. Even decades later, its impact hasn't dulled. Fans return to it for its sheer adrenaline, musicians cite it for its structure and intensity, and historians of the genre recognize it as a milestone of the mid-80s thrash movement. To understand why the force resonated, we must examine the musical architecture behind it. The guitars, serrated, fast, and unrelenting, their tone reflecting a combination of British metal tradition and newfound thrash intensity. The rhythms, built around galloping patterns and rapid-fire phrasing that gave the album its perpetual forward momentum. The vocals, shifting from punk's bark to a more commanding thrash delivery, giving the album a stronger sense of narrative authority. The themes, reflecting conflict, rebellion, and power. Motifs that spoke directly to a generation living through social and political strain. Individually, these elements were notable. Combined, they formed the sonic backbone that set the force apart. Metal Forces is the second track from the Force. It was clear that the band wanted to come out of the gates on fire on this album and did. From the opening riff, the song surges forward with a confidence that reflects a band fully stepping into its identity. Its driving tempo, razor-sharp guitar work, and martial precision make it an anthem of unity and aggression, an unmistakable rallying cry within the album. What sets Metal Forces apart is its sense of purpose. Every section feels deliberate, forged to showcase the band's technical growth and their rising authority in the thrash movement. It's a track that doesn't just energize listeners, it defines the spirit of the record itself. In the legacy of Onslaught's early work, Metal Forces remains a standout, concise, powerful, and unmistakably iconic. When the album hit the scene, it made waves that traveled far beyond the UK underground. Critics noted its seriousness of intent, the way it balanced speed with clarity, aggression with discipline. Fans embraced its precision and its emotional weight, elevating it quickly within the hierarchy of European thrash releases. For many listeners, the album represented a new turning point. It proved that thrash didn't have to be purely chaotic to be powerful. It could be methodical, crafted, even strategic, without losing the ferocity that defined the genre. Decades later, Onslaught, the Force remains a touchstone for musicians and fans alike. Its influence is evident not only in the band's later work, but in the broader progression of thrash metal across Europe. The album helped define what British thrash could be, its identity, its intensity, and its place in the global movement. For those who study the genre, the Force stands as a historical marker. For those who love it, as I do, it stands as a testament to what happens when a band finds the balance between their origins and their ambition. It is an album that did not merely respond to its moment in history. It helped shape it,